question I have is, when we mow in the winter with that type of grass, when we mow in the summer, are we essentially using the same height on the mowers, or does the grass drive a different setting?
The grass in the winter time, and that's a really, really great question. When I started here, Dave, the industry was here, and I'm talking about here in the general Phoenix, Arizona area, we would keep the fairway heights probably about just under an inch, about 5/8, maybe 11/16. And we started having some serious transition problems. I'm talking, once the summer came, we had some serious transition issues, not only in the fairways, but around the greens. So we were scratching our heads because the USGA, the University of Arizona, who does a lot of research for golf courses, was saying, oh, you know what, keep it high, don't bring your heights down until May-ish or so, then you can transition out and whatever. Well, that turned out to be a lot of bad information. So over the last 3 or 4 years, working with the USGA now closely, where we're bringing them in here, they've said, you know what, you got to get your mowing heights really tight starting in late January. And what I mean by tight, David, I'm talking about 1/2 inch or so. The reason why is because this Bermuda is starting to wake up at the end of February, at early February, mid-February, and it's looking for sunlight. And if it doesn't get sunlight because the rye is that tall, it dies by March.
That makes perfect sense.
And I can support this with research articles and whatnot. So unfortunately, the last several years, the board and I have been trying to educate our members to say, hey, look, this isn't a David Escobedo desired thing. I would love to put something down here that would make you guys happy, but buying sod doesn't make our members happy. And so how do we not buy sod? We have to follow the program of bringing the heights down earlier in the winter, much earlier than we thought. So ever since we adopted that program, and this is our 3rd year with it, we're not having to buy sod like we did. We were buying $15,000 to $20,000 every summer of sod. The sod trucks would roll in. We're getting our guys off mowers. We're getting our guys off other assignments to start laying sod and fixing dead areas. We haven't had to do that anymore. So unfortunately, what a lot of our members are having to learn and adapt to is that, unlike the cool regions where they come from, where there is no competition because in the winter they go into dormancy under the snow, we're a 11-month-a-year program here. So we're transferring from one grass to another, and that transition period in between is what's really hard. More so in the summer than it is in the fall when we prep for rye seed. And transition, I believe in the last 3 or 4 years we've gotten a lot better, but it's because we've started the process in February as opposed to waiting until May to do what we need to do. And you know, coming out, I hope that answers your question, you know, and whatnot.
But on a specific question.
Yes, sir.
So if the mowing settings are now at 9/16,
Mm-hmm.
which is just 1/16 over a 1/2 inch.
Mm-hmm.
If we raise that 1/8 of an inch to 11, if I got it right, 11/16.
Yeah.
11/16,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That would give us a little bit of cushion. What
Mm-hmm.
is the second and third order effect of raising that mower 1/8 of an inch? Is it that so significant at this time of year?
Not at all. At this current time, Dave, we can do that because we're kind of past the worst of the transition period. But the reason why I brought you guys out here and I wanted to show you all this stuff is, I'm going to tell you right now, before we even do it, that doing so with this particular grass,
That's what I'm asking.
you're not going to get what you want.
Really?
I'll be happy. I'll even raise them up to 3/4 for you.
No.
But if I got a golf ball here real quick.
Well, the only reason I'm asking this is because, as you know, and you've heard it as many times as I have in my short time on the board, is, man, if we could just get a little more cushion under this ball, and then it's cushion versus roll. There's a million things.
Those are outstanding questions. They really are. But here
here is,
yeah.
at this time of year, and I have I have something
Sure,
in mind.
sure.
And that is, let's give them what they asked for.
Right.
Let's give them 11/16, a little bit more than a half, and then let's see what the feedback is. The feedback might be, I liked it a lot better when they were shorter.
And that's a great analogy, and that's doable. That's absolutely doable.
David's also going to show you though, so understand when you're talking about 11/16, so that's not a big difference. You can go 3/4, whatnot. But when you're talking about cushion, think of a pillow. If you had a memory foam pillow that's really thick,
the prism
and you have a down feather pillow that's really thick, which one's your head going to sink in more?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that has to do with what he's going to show you with
Sure,
the two different types of grass here.
I'm very familiar with the fact that we have, and I use this term all the time, we have first generation Bermuda grass, and all the guys that are playing on some of the other courses, they're at 8th and 9th generation Bermuda grass.
No, and those are great questions. Right here, where it's all. There's a kind of a low part right there, so that right there is really thick. This is a prism, guys. This is the industry's way of measuring. The USGA uses this. PGA officials use this before tournaments. And if you come over here, if you guys want to stand over here, you'll get a really good view. Over here where I'm at, help yourself. Right here on the right side, you could see the numbers: 1 inch, 3/4. It goes down. Go ahead and get up close.
Valley, so put it up.
Yeah. I'm putting it on a valley right now, so you could see what 3/4 would look like, or 1 inch would look like.
It'll change depending on where you're at.
And we're gonna put it on a flat area now, Jaime.
Gee, that looks a lot better than my metal ruler.
Yeah. And this is what the industry uses, guys. So now look at it. This is
not only does that measure the grass,
Basically under a half inch.
it'll measure the quality of the cut. It'll measure the grass that didn't cut, because 100% of the grass is not cut when the reel passes
So
through.
this is pretty typical. This would be about 9/16 then.
right.
Right there.
So go put it over here, Jaime. See this piece of grass here?
'Cause that's all.
This is what you guys played on at Eagle's Nest. We got patches of this all over the place.
I hope it takes over the whole fairway.
I wish it would.
So that's more about 5/8.
Yeah.
So see how the difference? There's just it's slight, but
So-
there's a difference
So
from the grasses.
when we do like a bench setting on our equipment, which I do almost every day, is we're setting it on a pretty much flat surface.
Right.
That's what we're doing. When it comes here, the bench setting, for example, will be 275 at the shop. The actual cut will be 375.
Yeah.
It's a
Because of the
big
valleys
difference.
and hills and stuff.
Because the rollers cannot go all the way down to the ground. The rollers of the machine that stay floating, or wherever they can go, they'll cut more or less, depending on the contour of the.
You can keep that.
Oh, thank you.
You can keep that. Share it, whatever. So if your ball lands here, it's not standing up real good. Now look at that.
Yeah, totally different grass.
It's a different grass.
Yeah.
This is what the new courses have. New courses that were built 15 years or newer. This is a 42-year-old golf course, so we got a hodgepodge of everything. So if your ball just rolled about 4 feet over here, now you got a different lie than what you have there. And so it's almost a different height of cut, because if this was such a great grass, they would have never bred this.
Yeah, Dave,
Yeah. So no, and I'm just sharing that with you guys so you can take it back to whoever you got to talk to.
Cost difference. So you reseed with this, what's the cost?
If we resprigged with this, the ballpark figure right now, you would be looking at about $150,000 to $200,000 per course.
per course or
Per course.
About
Now
8 months of
it's
close.
just
But
summer grass?
yeah, this is just summer grass, but we would have to remain closed for about 8 months
Really?
Reseed it.
to resprig
And
it.
this type of grass likes to be mowed. It needs to be mowed,
6 to 8 months.
because if
somewhere
we
in there.
don't, it'll scalp
So you're
it.
basically shutting one course down
So
to do
there's
it,
a couple
then
of courses
do the
that have it planned to do it because they have to pay water tax, and they're trying to switch over to TifTUF, which is
Right.
the stuff we have on the back tee box. They're still in preliminary, but they're going to close down in May and try to open up after overseed. But they won't be able to overseed the next year as well. So
Yeah. So
Okay, so there's a lot of second and third order effects to swapping out.
yes.
Just
So
making the Bermuda thicker, what's the cost of, with the grass we have?
with the grass we have,
About another eighth of an inch, is that what
this
No, I
is
meant
about as
just
thick
like-
as you can get it.
this is about as
The
thick as you can
vistas,
get
we
it.
have
Yeah.
some bare patches.
Right. Here's where we have to. Here's where my job gets a little tricky, because your questions are very legitimate. We're $100,000 over budget right now, so adding more fertilizer I have to ask, geez, am I going to go to Kurt and say, hey, I need another $20,000 to thicken this up, knowing I'm going to tear it up in 6 weeks?
I'll
So
give you that answer. You don't need to ask the board.
yeah,
You know it already.
exactly. So I mean, we have to ask ourselves those questions and whatnot. You're right. In a perfect world, it's like if you come over here, it's much thinner.
Oh, now we're getting into my line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now we're getting into the dirt, if you will. And so, yeah, you can bring the prism over here. Now you have a much tighter lie. And what we do is we try to spot fertilize some of these areas where we just maybe fertilize this area, and we'll try to treat these areas here and there. But
Yeah, see, this is what we're looking at here.
But that's typical of the vistas more than the lakes.
right, and that was partly because of the well.
If you just look in this area, Jim, you can see over here, it's very thin. Over there, where
It was thick.
where everything else is thick. Even some. So the real question is, does raising that height of mowing 1/8 of an inch, will
would
that
affect this area
help
more
this
than that
get
area.
bigger, and will it help spread?
It'll help the area, but Bermuda likes to be mowed. The lower Bermuda, there is a window,
Right.
but the lower Bermuda gets mowed, the more it'll spread horizontally.
Right.
It's not a vertical growing grass like ryegrass or some of the cool season grasses you guys are used to playing.
So you go from 0 to over half inch.
See, so what we want is these guys, they call these stolons or runners. We want these dudes to just produce their own runners and spread out.
Which they're doing.
And they will. Now, here's the downside to pushing these areas real hard. Brandon and I talked a little while ago. The downside to pushing these areas really hard is now I have to run more water. And one of the comments on here is the courses are too wet, and I agree. But I can't push Bermuda without the extra water. So I don't know a nice way to say. Sometimes we have to live with what we have, because in 6 weeks we're going to ryegrass. Do we want to blow the budget right now, Dave? But Dave, we can raise the height a little bit and see what that happens. See what happens. I'm open to that.
Why don't we? My recommendation, and of course,
Make 'em complain that
there's
it's too
members
high.
of the board here to make the recommendation or not.
Right.
But I think if we, again, my opinion.
Sure.
Opinion, and everybody
Sure.
has one.
Sure.
My opinion is, we know from experience that the number one comment that always comes up is never lower those blades, make them tighter. Everybody wants a little more action on it. So
Mhm.
let's give them what they ask for.
Let's
Let's see if we can, without a lot of extra fertilizer and water and all the other business. Let's see if we can.
let's
get it
let's
pushed.
let's do it. Let's do it.
I honestly think that it's not going to happen right away because if you want that, I mean, it's 125 on my ruler. If we're going to raise it 125, we're going to move to 5/8.
Yeah.
So I mean, it'll be nothing.
Yeah.
It'll be nothing.
We could let's take him to 11.
What I'm saying, the change of the heights, you know,
It's still the same.
it'll be this little tiny little bit. You know what I mean? 125.
Yeah.
Be like you would dramatically have to go to like a quarter, which would make you 3/4 of an inch.
Well, what would you recommend then to get it to come up a little bit higher?
I do what David does. Like he says, things have changed throughout the years. Like now the machines are set up with more blades. Back in the day there were less blade because the height of cut was higher. Now everybody wants the height of cut lower. So the machines are standard now with those reels. Back in the day that was an option that you couldn't get. Now
Yeah.
they're coming with those reels.
And basically what he's saying is these mowers are now designed, the highest we could probably go on them and get an efficient quality
3/4.
cut would be 3/4.
And then we have to change
So
the reels
we
out.
can try that out. We can try that out. Let's go to 11/16 and see what happens. Let's and that'd be as high.
We're going to take it down,
Yeah.
So we got to
And we're
see
not
what the
talking
grass
about
is.
the rough.
No. The rough is staying put. The rough is staying put.
Let me get some insights from guys that I play golf with and feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I know of no major complaints about the tees. There are some talk about colors, but my guys don't complain about the colors. Nobody complains about the rough because you're not supposed to hit it out there.
Yeah,
We kind of laugh at you.
yep.
You're out there in the 2-inch rough. Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hack it out over here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no issues there. It is 95% of all the comments come right here where we're sitting.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to tell you, if we had that, that'd be so. We probably wouldn't be standing here. But this stuff is so hard to make thick. It's almost, Dave. It's almost not a height of cut question. Although I don't mind going to 11/16. it's more of a density question.
Yeah.
The denser the grass is, the more cushion you're going to get. But the reason why all these professors develop these grasses is because this is inadequate. Nobody's putting this in anymore on any golf courses they're building. So because the leaf on this doesn't carry your ball, it just surrounds it and stuff. So we're gonna go to 11/16. We'll change them out, and then we'll let everybody see, you know, and whatnot. But
Will the Bermuda respond the same way most plants do? Whereas if you allow it to grow a little higher, it'll drive roots deeper in growth?
it can, and that is beneficial. It's also becomes more drought tolerant by raising it up.
Right.
The reason why we keep it tight is because we see more horizontal growth when we keep it tighter than if we raise it up. So there comes a period in time when we're trying to get through the transition where we're more interested in horizontal growth to fill all these areas than we are in that vertical growth. Now I know the golfer wants to see the vertical growth, but the golfer also wants to see these areas disappear and fill in. So it's kind of a catch-22 sometimes, you know, and whatnot. So right now we're mostly past the transition. We still got a few areas here, and then what you see at the vistas was really where we got hurt with the well being down, where we only had 70% of the water, but we're still recovering.
As I told you the last time we were talking about transition, this transition this year was the very best I've seen in the last 5, and I think that was a function of you starting in February with a soft kill versus March with
Absolutely,
a hard kill.
absolutely.
Because you put poison down to kill something, it's gonna have a second or third order effect on everything else around it as well.
And Dave,
I think that was the smartest thing, and it showed. Look how nice and green we look.
and I appreciate that. And to piggyback on that, the big part of the success has also been the heights coming down, because we can put the chemical down, but if there's not sunlight to this Bermuda,
I got that.
it dies, and then we're back to square one. So it takes a team effort to educate our members, and I know these aren't in their world the most ideal conditions. I went last year up north to Wyoming and Idaho around this time of year, and I got to see what you guys are used to playing on, and damn, it's pretty good. Unfortunately here we have this. So, but it doesn't mean it can't be good. It's not going to be great, because unless we had this, it's just a different grass. Yeah.
I'm appreciative of the fact that you'll raise them up. And
Absolutely.
Get to see what the effect is. And
Absolutely.
We'll hear what the comments are from a slightly higher.
Absolutely. Jill and I, now that she's Greens Chairman, are driving around weekly. We'll take weekly pictures with the Prism, share with everybody what's going on. We have no secrets, man. In fact, we welcome the comments. We welcome the questions.
I might ask to borrow that Prism sometime.
Absolutely.
I know guys that need to see that with their own eyes.
Absolutely, Dave.
They do.
All you got to do is
really
ask,
do.
man. All you
And
got to
not
do
only
is
does
ask.
this show the way the height, the way the machine cuts, the way it's leaving clippings, the way it's not mowing, the way it chews the grass, all kinds of things this will show you.
So
The difference, one more question. like
Sure,
this,
sure.
It's really more prevalent with the vistas is, I know when you aerate, you're used to that, and then you drag the plugs and they blend in pretty quick. It seems like the blade that churns it up leaves big chunks, like you'll have a hole in the fairway of dirt versus
yeah.
like where it was a hole before. So
Yeah.
is there a way to help time that?
yeah, we try to fill those in best we can, and they eventually fill in, but we don't have the best equipment, and I'm not saying we don't have good equipment. I'm just saying we don't have the Scottsdale equipment to just make that as smooth as possible right away. So I always ask everybody this time of year, cut me a little slack, because we're going to have some holes. We're going to have a little bit of this. We're going to have a little bit of that. But we are going to try to get rid of it. The goal when we do that is try to not have mud on everybody's wheels, because it could be a lot worse than it really is. But yeah, we're looking for a best way to do that.
Now you gotta love this week with all the humidity.
Oh, absolutely. I hate it, but the grass loves it. Yeah, I hate it, but the grass loves it. But yeah, no, this whole week is going to be perfect Bermuda grass growing weather. So since we're past the primary transition period, and we got about 6-7 weeks before we start tearing this stuff up, raising the heights, Dave, is not going to be an issue.
Like I said,
That's not been an issue. Let's give it a shot.
It's a common
Mhm.
common complaint from the guys who are here. I've never
Sure,
heard anyone
sure.
say- Only one person ever told me they wanted it lower, and that's because he's an excellent golfer.
They usually are.
Not me.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right,
I think the average guy and their average complaint is raise it up.
right,
So
right.
compress it
Let's
all.
raise it up. Compress the ball and see
Let's
if
do
they
it.
like or not.
Let's do it.
And the other question before we go down
Sure.
the shot
As I get it
is
back up.
a couple of the greens at the Vistas, and I'll be honest, I played the Vistas last Friday. I thought they were fine. That's the effect that I
They're slow and
expected
bumpy.
Yeah, I expected that after.
Mhm.
So 2 observations. First observation was somebody showed me they put their tee in a hole, and the tee went all the way down. It was like there was no sand in it. And as we punched around, it was like most of the green there was no didn't have any sand in it. So obviously, without asking why,
Mhm.
they made bad assumptions. So my question is, okay, so why were some of the holes not filled with sand? Was there a rationale for that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and my answer is, we limited the sand that we put at the Vistas because just prior to closing it, the guys that were changing the cups were telling me, Dave, they're like concrete. I'm having so much trouble getting this cup cutter down there because the soil underneath is so hard.
Okay.
And so it's beneficial for us, especially this time of year with the weather and whatnot, to get water down there and just and keep these holes temporarily open. Now the grass canopy will fill the holes in
It did.
and whatnot. So anytime you can have a hole that's open and doesn't affect the roll or of your ball, yeah, and it might temporarily. This is the month, late June through July. I gotta have the golf courses and compromise playing quality a little bit to do what I need to do so that the other months of the year we're tip top. And so we didn't put a lot of sand. We didn't fill them intentionally, not fill them so we can continue to get water down there. We had a good rain the other night. We probably got 80% of that water into the soil, which is very beneficial. The Vistas is closing again next week. We're filling the hole. What we're doing is gradually filling the holes now with light top dressings, and eventually those holes will go away and whatnot. But for now, I want to get as much water as I can down there. Now, is my way the only way to do things? Absolutely not. If you get 10 chefs in one room and tell them I want you to bake me a chocolate souffle, they're all going to do it a different way. The superintendent, you get 10 superintendents in a room, they're going to do it a different way. The ways that we've developed here are what we see works best for this golf course. These golf courses, these greens, these particular grasses with these particular soils that we have. This is what we've seen that works really well for us. Now, if you go to the guy down the street, he may have more clay in his greens, he may have less. He may have more sand over here, this guy may have less. You got to find what really makes your golf course tick, and then that's how we develop our programs. And they're tweaked a little bit in some areas, and some areas they're tweaked a lot. But
that's just information. If you
yeah.
get that out,
Okay.
we got to get water down. People aren't getting
Well, that's why we asked the question why before.
So we can get it.
and that's why I tell you guys, I tell everybody, my door is always open. You guys ever want to come and talk? I'm right here. I'll be happy to answer your questions. Yeah, absolutely too. Absolutely too. So we can adjourn real quick to the Vistas maintenance yard and let Jaime give us a demonstration if you guys don't have any more questions. Turn it over to Jaime. Jaime's going to give us a quick demonstration of how he adjusts the mowing heights on these, height of cut, the gauge he uses. He's going to show you how that gauge reads the numbers and everything. So Jaime, go ahead and take it away, man.
Yeah. So this is kind of what we use the most. Here, I'll give you one. Those are the heights that David will mostly.
Similar to what I gave you.
Oh, is that what you gave?
Yeah,
This
is a little bit more specific.
Those are like every single one, but this is what David will ask me for more 16th and 8th or whatever he wants.
Yeah, let me have one, Jaime, for Kurt.
But like right here, you want 11/16, so it's 587. Right now we're at 9/16, so we're at 562.
He's gonna show
So
you
we
right
set it
now.
up with this. This is a flat edge, and we'll put the front roller to measure the height that you want it. And this is called a bench setting, and it's only measuring the height from the bed knife that actually cuts. This is the reel that brings in the grass. This is the bed knife that cuts it. So this will be our bench set. It's not the actual cut of height. It is different when I set it here to when it's gonna go out. It'll change, like I said. It'll be higher.
It'll be higher.
Yes, sir. It would be higher. So that's 562 around there. It won't be 100% accurate because the rollers will change it because they hit concrete. Like I was saying, all those rocks that they're grabbing, see how they wear it. We will constantly have to change, and each one of these will cost around $400. The same thing with this one. So a little giveaway on that, little bit, tiny bit at 5/8 or 11/16, you won't be able to tell. So that is right on the money right there.
Very good.
And this is how we set it. I'll loosen this one, and we either bring it up or down, and that's how we get the height. So depending on the number, you see how you want
So we're
11/16, so we're gonna put it at 687. So we're gonna look at our ruler, and then there we're at 5, so we're gonna bring it down. What is it? 687. So we're moving. The roller's moving down. 6. 85, 6, 87.
787.
Right on the
So
money.
now that's 11/16.
Yes.
So you basically just raised it 2/16.
Right.
Yes.
That's what we were talking, and that's,
Yeah.
and that's what he was telling us, that you're not gonna see that until it's over a couple of days, and it's really a very minor one anyway.
Yeah,
The
it's
way,
very
the way it's
minor.
growing right now, you'll probably see it by Friday.
Really?
Yeah, because of the humidity and the rain. Yeah.
I'm playing the late summer.
Yeah.
That's
So,
exactly right.
and whenever you guys want to borrow the prism, just come get it. It's here.
So any height or cut that we do that's really high, a little bit of a smidge like that, like so, it's not a big deal. When we're at the greens, if it's more than 10 of this, guys, it's a big deal.
Big
It has
deal
to
on
be
the greens.
right on, because the green has a more of a surface that's smooth. The fairways have a more like an undulation, different grasses and all that stuff. But high cuts, the height, even if it's up a little bit, you won't see it. Low cuts, anything that's off, you'll see it right away. And this is called bench setting.
When you raise that up, that gives less of an opportunity for those reels to hit things too, correct? I mean,
Yes. No, that's correct. Like if we got sand, the higher it cuts, the less it'll hit little pebbles and whatnot.
Yes. And this
there's
is,
probably enough
So you have to do
obstacles out
that for all three,
Yeah.
and then for all the different
it
modes.
takes me no time.
I mean, you did that pretty quick.
Yeah.
This
And
isn't your first rodeo. So
no, and this machine, like I said, see how it, back in the day they came with 7 blades. 7 blades of this meant that this machine was designed to cut a high cut. Now it comes with 11 blades because it's designed to cut low cuts. We don't do that very often here on this side of town, but a lot of people on the other side of the U.S., they do really go low. And this machine, so it actually cuts better at low cuts than at high cuts. You have a very poor quality at high cuts and low cuts because it's the way it's designed. And just by changing all those things, I had to change the settings on the machine to make them spin slower. But that's a bench setting test, and we have no aeration on it right now. So the thing is flat, which it has no angle to like eat the grass. So right now, because the Bermuda is aggressive enough like it is, so we leave it like this. On the winter time, we want to have more of an aggression because the winter grass tends to like lay down or doesn't want to come up. And these things are spinning so fast that it tends to fan them down. So we put an aggression on it so we can grab it and bring it in.
The bluegrass, it pulls it up to cut it.
Yeah, with the Bermuda, we don't need to do that because just there and it grabs it right away. But this is just a bench setting. It'll be different when it's out there. It's pretty easy how we do it.
But like he says, if these get really lopsided, where they're not as round anymore, you'll see a wave in the cut, and you'll see that, and that's when we need to replace these. So,
And this machine comes with cleaners in the back. Like you said, that the big chunks that you saw there, it destroys them.
It'll
it'll kill those brushes. I have to replace them. So yes, we don't want to see that. You know, we.
How long do the rollers in front last, Ben?
Uh,
A couple months or
they last a lifetime.
a lifetime?
That's why they're worth so much money, 500 a piece.
500.
Jaime, can you also explain to them the importance of the reel speed?
Yeah, so at a higher speed, at a higher height of cut, the reels will spin slower. The machine adjusts that by itself because we have a clipping rate. It's supposed to have a clipping rate at the speed of the reel, the height that it's on, and the speed of the machine. All that comes into consideration when changing a height.
So that the speed of that reel rotating
Well, slow down.
changes.
The higher you want it to cut, the slower it spins. The lower you want it to go, the faster it spins, and we have to change the speed on it too.
And the
Of
speed,
traction
you change
speed.
that up there,
The
right?
traction speed will change, yes.
Mower has an adjustment, so based on the speed of the mower, it automatically changes the reel speed. Depending
Yes.
on what you have it set at.
Did you hear him say in the winter it changed the pitch?
We changed it. We changed the aggression.
Down, so they have to be more aggressive, sort of pulling up. Or the Bermuda, they do it flat.
If we did integration to the Bermuda right now, you'll see scalping. You see it in some fairways where it's like, you know, scalps it in some areas. But if we had a very big aggression on it, it'll just scalp everywhere. We have it more of a level where it's just rolling down. Because it doesn't have a hard time picking the grass. And this picks in the grass too. This is a reel, picks in the grass, grabs in the grass, limits the friction between the bed knives and that, and at the same time gives it a little sharp edge to the bed knives to continue cutting throughout. So it does a lot of functions. And it's well designed because even though it's spinning really fast, it doesn't build air. It fends it through the outsides like that.
That's good.
Yeah,
So
it's,
that's why it has the vents here to,
Yep.
to blow it out.
yeah, and it's well engineered. I gotta say, I've had other ones that they fan out. It won't pick up the grass. You'll see it, and it's like, it's just there. They didn't cut it.
Ice sticks.
Yeah, it'll make your head spin for sure. These are the same mowers they use at Augusta National during the Masters. You can find videos on YouTube where they got 10 of these going down a fairway because they don't like to stripe at Augusta National. A lot of the high-end clubs, PGA, where they have the PGA championships, even when I went to Ireland, these were the mowers they used in Ireland. They were American mowers and whatnot. And so John Deere is the biggest competitor. There's a lot of clubs that have John Deere. It's like Chevy and Ford. We kind of lean toward Toro. What he tells me is they're easier to work on, less problems, parts are less, and the service is much better.
If I were to do that, like I said last time, if I were to do a high change on a John Deere, it would take me like 2 hours to do it. This one, it takes me like 20 minutes. Because they didn't design the reel parallel to the rollers, so I would have to parallel the rollers. I have a little thing right here. So when I do a change on the John Deere's, I have to use this thing. Because even though I did change right there, I don't know if the roller is parallel to the rear ones.
So you'd have to use that.
I don't have to use it for this one because they already created this angle on the structure of the cutting unit. So it's dead on all the time. So on the other ones, I have to parallel, set it has a centric bolt, I have to put it back, put it here until I grab it. Finally, I get it back, and that's like 1980 technology.
I like the injections better with this one.
Yeah. And that stuff, it should be obsolete because it takes forever to do it. And if you were to hit it with something, it'll take the centric bolt off and it'll be like this. And if we were to bring the ruler and the roller's higher here and it's lower here, it'll give you the same height because it's like this. It'll give you the height here the same way as it will give you here. And you can't see it with your eyes, so you'll see it over there, or you have to have a really flat bench where you set it and you'll see that the roller's higher. That's how you could tell. Yep. And we adjust the front ones, John Deere adjusts the rear roller. So they're different on that too. But
So just so you guys know, the
changing
Lakes mows with John Deere's, the Vistas, Toros, but we bought those about 6 years ago, Jaime.
yeah.
So when we're ready to swap out the Fairway mowers, we're gonna go all red. Yeah.
Well, just what you said, how long it takes to.
Yeah, it takes them a long time. Their weight of adjustment is harder because they have a big giant spring in the back waiting for that bed knife. So the way they do it, they'll adjust this guy, which is the reel, up and down. Toro, what it does, it adjusts the bed knife to give it that angle to the reel. The reel is always fixed to the cutting unit. John Deere has this one not fixed on the air, so whenever it hits something or you smack it on the floor, it loses its tension. So we constantly have to adjust them.
So with the John Deere, it's a lot harder to adjust on that side. Would it behoove us to leave that one with the same length you're mowing, just change these and see if people can go different strings
Yeah.
than the lengths?
And what we could do, Jim,
We make this longer because it's easy, you said to change these, it's hard
Yeah.
to change those.
but yeah,
Good with that.
we could still change them, but just
Yeah,
use the
we're-
prism now to tell us where those are at and whatnot. I think that's a great tool to have.
You're the smart guy, but I think that's a good suggestion. Just change them here.
And then with,
Don't, I mean,
It's a test.
just.
Let's try it out.
because if these are
It takes me
easier
no
to
time.
change, those are harder to change.
And also we have a lift, so it's pretty
So
easy.
leave those alone and
Yeah.
just do this one.
Okay,
So, yeah,
Other golf courses don't have
let's
it.
see. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Excellent compliment.
Let's do it.
Then they said, geez, I could hit it better at the lights. Then we
Yeah,
got,
no kidding.
well, but it didn't change.
A little bit.
A little bit different at the vistas in the. There's like 100 varieties of Bermuda grass. I've brought several professionals out here, agronomists, USGA guy, and nobody can tell me exactly what kind of grass we have here at the vistas on the fairways, but it is very close to common. It's probably mutated back, but let's try it out. Let's see what happens. So we'll do this one and not that one.
Higher, leave that one.
So
All right.
just let's review the bidding. So business is going to
11/16.
16. We're going to keep the lakes where it's at.
9/16.
And get a sensing from the golfers that we play with. Whether they want roll or whether they want
Because we play here twice a week, we play there twice a week.
Works for me, man. Let's try it out. See what happens. Okay. Good enough.
And the pro will tell us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Anything we can show you that?
Beyond fairways,
Mhm.
greens. We know the greens get bumpy based upon some of the things that we do to them. Again, we can't be the Scottsdale courses with all the stuff they have and the type of Bermuda they have. How about just rolling them? I don't know, every other day or a couple of times a week, and
Yeah.
try to maintain as smooth a level as we can.
Yeah.
That would help. First of all, it would help the golfers who then complain that it's too bumpy. What are you complaining about? You're just a bad putter. You know.
What days you guys play?
I play normally I play 4 days a week. So you
Okay.
can think of that.
3 days a week is doable. That's
3
doable.
days.
Yeah.
Well, again.
Yeah. I mean, three. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm asking.
Here's.
Rolling.
I'm gonna tell you right now. If I'm honest with you, the way when we get these humid conditions and the heat, which we haven't had a summer like this in a while, right, Kurt? I mean, it's been a long time. This stuff, you'll actually get maybe a 16th of growth between 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. And so, depending what time you play and what time you roll, you'll notice you'll notice it more probably the earlier you play than in the afternoon. But we can do it. What we're trying to do more of right now to keep them under control is applying a growth regulator about every 10 days, right? Yeah, to keep them from getting out of control. And then the other thing we're doing is every close day we're verticutting them to keep the thatch and the pillowy of them. Yeah. And so we're doing that regularly as well to try to keep them under control. The vistas, when it's like this, the vistas greens, because they're a different grass, they're an older grass, they're tougher to control than his at the lakes, because we redid his greens in 2015 with TifTUF, which is closer to what they have at the Scottsdale courses. It's not what they have, but it's closer. The vistas greens, which is old 328, we got them to putt really good 8 or 9 months out of the year, but these months when it gets this humid, which doesn't happen every year, they're tough to handle. It's like a bronco that wants to, he wants to buck. So we can roll them, And
You have to understand too that the rollers that we have float on the machine.
yeah,
They float on it.
They float.
So that you're not having a big structure like those little machines where you sit on it and you really roll
And
it.
you go sideways. 'Cause that's
Yeah,
supposed
and
to-
then most guys go
Yeah,
on the roller and
yeah.
they're just floating. And yes, we can put heavier rollers, but I've noticed that throughout the years they're killing the side motors because every time they turn, it's just too heavy on it.
so
They're not
rolling
meant
them.
or designed for
I can't. I don't want. I can't say that rolling them won't help,
They have those things.
Yep.
but let's give it a shot.
They do it like every
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's an observation. It's certainly not a directive. I don't-
No, no, no,
Take it that way. So
no. But we're open to that. I'm not.
whatever
And we're grooming every day too.
rollers be helpful
Yeah.
to
Every single
the
day
horses.
It.
with sand and those.
We usually keep them pretty good during the winter months with what we have now that's groomers. And we put groomers on our greens mowers now, which is like a little verticutting unit on the actual mower. When the grass is this aggressive, the groomers don't work as well as they do the rest of the year. Like we can get these greens stamping 9 or 10 in the winter time, and that was unheard of before we had the groomers. And that's pretty good when you have this old TIF green 328 grass. In the summertime, though, this is the only time of year where we really struggle because they want to get out of control. So we're doing it with a growth regulator. We're trying to hold them back with a growth regulator, and we're verticutting them a lot more frequently and whatnot. So
And I know the demand David wants because grooming says the word grooming. We're verticutting. We're being very aggressive with the groomers. And the groomers itself, when they grab something hard, instead of chewing it out, they'll raise themselves up and down, depending on wherever they can dig. They're not fixed to the machine. Back in the day, they were fixed. So whenever they would turn around the green or they'll just scalp it. They'll scalp it. Now they're not because they're meant to be grooming. But right now we're tweaking them to verticut. We're making them verticut. As you can see in the greens, if you guys play, you can see the groomer blades. It's very indentated in them, and we should be higher than that. We're down positive instead of being negative on top of the roller. So the groomer should be sitting here on top of the roller. No, we have it under the roller, so we're more aggressive.
yeah, and you'll see more scalping at the vistas right now, greens, than you will at the lakes because the lakes, it's a finer leaf. It's the very same concept that we're dealing with on the fairways with the hybrid patches and the common patches. So his greens over there at the lakes right now, we can mow them lower and you'll see less scalping. If we try to mow these greens here like we're mowing them over there, they'll turn blonde real quick and they'll start to scalp. It's just an older grass. It was bred in 1952. It's what we have here at the vistas. We talked about in years past about converting them to a newer variety, but we haven't had a summer like this one in a long time. So the last couple of summers we've been able to keep them in check and whatnot. And then this summer is probably the first summer in about 5 years that I can remember where it's really humid. And then and they deal with this in Florida big time and in the southeast with the Bermuda over there. They don't have transition issues in the southeast because of the humidity. That Bermuda just boom takes off starting in April. You know, we're a desert over here. We're a lot drier, so our Bermuda doesn't move the same way it does on the East Coast. But on the East Coast, they deal with the humidity quite a bit, and that's why they tend to convert to the newer grasses much faster than some of the courses here in the Southwest.
So, we have what we have, and you guys are doing the best to optimize it, and that's all we can ask as members.
We appreciate that. Yeah.
If you guys think we can roll them to avoid some of the pumping, that would be helpful.
Some of the other option we can do, Dave, that we found helpful is double mowing. So the guy can mow it twice, and you'll get a much cleaner, truer cut. And then it's sending less machines out there and whatnot. We do that frequently this time of year. We haven't done it much lately, but we can start doing it more frequently, where we'll double mow and whatnot, and just it just takes a little longer.
At the same time, the same one will mow the green.
Yeah. Yep, and then mow a different direction.
Yeah,
and you
because
get a better.
The machine doesn't
truer
cut
cut.
100% of the grass.
Right.
It does not.
No. Well, he mowed greens
Yeah,
for
he
us
is.
too, man. So he mowed greens for
did.
us at what time too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually work with these.
Yeah.
Somebody certified it first, you know, he's got photos.
He did pretty good too. He did pretty good too. He did, man. Sorry, man. You know.
He had his
Yeah,
headphones
yeah.
on.
Can't tell it's
Couldn't
something
listen.
until you smell it.
I know it. I know it. But yeah, we can double cut, we can roll, we can play with some things. I'm open to that. It's there's 10 ways to skin a cat. We just have to find ways to do it that's within our budget, that's within our realm. But yeah, I'm open to anything. We tried different things. We're always trying to reinvent the wheel here. You know, we know sometimes we're out of money, but we still got to get this product, and we're always trying to reinvent the wheel and do things differently.
I think anytime you're doing an experiment with the end state being to improve the golf course or to improve playing conditions, I'm not the greens and grounds guy, but I certainly would support it from a board perspective. You know, that's what this is about. This is a good time to do it.
Most of the time.
Before the big winter guy comes, you know, we got everybody competing for playing time.
Right. You know, and it's like when we changed the rough mowers, and we said, you know what, we're gonna buy a cheaper, a less expensive rough mower. It was he and I that sat down, and our experience at another course where we worked together, we had those particular mowers, and we were like, you know what, why are we gonna spend $100,000 on one mower when we can buy 2 of these for half that, and now we can get a stump grinder? So I mean, he and I will sit down in my office, and we're always brainstorming. Sometimes we can come up with really good ideas, and sometimes we can't, but we're always trying.
The last thing that was on the list of things that guys were talking to me about, David, and Jill sent, I don't know if you guys all saw it, Jill said it was about a first cut of rough, you know, the pros and cons of the first cut of rough. On our course, we really don't have, I mean, the cart paths are normally the biggest trend. I mean, normally we have playable grass right up to the cart path, and then on the other side of the cart path, you know, you get the high rough. And that's fine. There's a couple, and it's not all over the place, but there's a couple where you hit the fairway, you get an unfortunate bounce, and now you're in 2 inches of rough. And I don't know the value or what the cost, time, energy, all it is if we were to take a look and not do it now, but think about it down the road and say, is it doable at a reasonable expense to have a one, you know, we have our fairways now at just a little bit over a half. Have a 1-inch collar and then the 2-inch, you know, you're screwed.
Right.
Yeah.
The 8 at the lakes is a great example. So everything breaks over.
Right. That's one that I was thinking about. And there's a couple other eyeball ones. 13 is a common one. You hit the fairway and then you're down.
It would be easier and less expensive if we widened the fairway. Yeah,
Okay.
and I'll tell you why, guys. I'm being straight up with you. I don't see a golf course in Arizona that has it. And Brandon, you correct me if I'm wrong. And the reason why is because it requires another mower, it requires another individual. And in the article that Jill sent, that was in Buffalo, New York, and they said in 6 months it was 300 man hours. 2 courses, that's 600 man hours. In a time when we're trying to do a lot of projects in-house. Yeah. To do a lot of projects in-house, we're zero escaping. We like to do things more in-house so that we can save the club money. So we're always looking for areas, things we don't have to do that we can do other things. You know, Jill and I wrote this morning, and I was just like, gosh, I wish I had somebody that could clean up these deserts. They look so terrible. Washouts and branches down and whatnot. And so if it isn't absolutely necessary, it's hard for me to endorse it. But look at the holes, guys, the next time you guys play. And if you feel that widening the fairway a mower width is more beneficial or as beneficial, that's a lot less labor intense than
So
the
still
intermediate
leaving the
cut.
cart path where it's at.
Yeah. Go to the opposite side and we can make the fairway a little bit wider in certain areas.
Okay. That's a good analysis of what.
If we had a
cost
bigger
versus
staff,
benefit.
if we had, you know, more equipment and whatnot, I would look into it. But I don't know any of the I don't even know any of the North Scottsdale guys with full staffs that are doing it. But it's not that we're not open to it. But if I'm being honest, realistic with you, we barely have enough staff right now to keep the courses in as good a shape as we can.
As I look over the courses in my mind, the number of places where that first cut of rough would be aesthetically pleasing and useful to the golfer. There's not that many holes.
Half
We're
a
not
dozen.
talking about a lot of holes.
Half a dozen.
Yeah, maybe. And like I said, I haven't really looked at it with a real eye. Just it's comments that come out.
Yeah. No, sure.
And I'm with you. I would rather much see the greens and grounds crew doing important work than that's a nice thing over there, but we'll get to that down the road.
And you know, Dave, like I've said before, there are no dumb questions.
Yeah.
You guys have questions, feel free to ask.
Now here's the last one.
Sure.
The very last one. I promised him the last
No
question.
problem.
Okay, after the big rain the other night, I happened to be walking my backyard. I have 2 deep holes, that feed water down to our beautiful quarters. And then we have, I'm sure they're all over the place, we have these really deep riverheads. Is that just the common experience that we're going to experience at this time of year? And let it
Yeah,
go?
matter of fact, he has guys right now over there, that big pile of crushed granite that's behind 18 Green. They're out there spreading, filling all those riverheads. Jill and I looked at an area near 14 docks where we're going to actually make a drip wrap, kind of which is like rocks about that size. We're going to just make a little creek because that's always going to be a washout.
Yeah.
When we did the lift, her and I talked about it this morning. When we did the lift, the board really wanted us to use crushed granite wall to wall. And I regret that tremendously because there's some areas where we probably should have gone with 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch and really wouldn't get those washouts. So that's one of the jobs I'm talking about where we're having to pull guys off of other assignments to go fix those areas and whatnot. And so we're going to develop a plan in the next several months and year, and something for us to do in the winter time when we get a little bit slower to go fix those with kind of riprap and rock, if you will, make some creeks, make them look somewhat of attractive, and that way we don't have to fix as many of them.
I don't, again, my home sits pretty high. If you look at the 150 at 13 at left, it's probably one of the higher homes there. And as you drive around the other course where the lower homes are, you don't get those big riverheads. But 5, I think, is one at the lakes where the homes on the right-hand side sit up so high. 13 on the,
11 is real bad too.
11 is really low.
The right side of 10 there at the lakes,
Yeah.
we used to get washouts like crazy, and about 2 years ago, we went to the 3/4 inch rock, and now we don't get any more. So we need to do more of that, in my opinion, in the non-playing areas, like around tee boxes, where we know people are not going to play, like the right side of number 5 at the lakes, where it's really sloped and nobody's going to ever hit their ball there. Let's put that 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch rock, and so we never have to deal with and look at washouts there again. It's something that, as the budget allows over time, we're going to just keep addressing so many areas throughout the next 5 or 6 years or whatever. And we definitely want to get all there.
I'm glad you're thinking about that, but I think you're also right to be more focused on getting us down to variable acres.
Right,
as number one priority besides the conditions.
Right.
If you guys look at number 18 of the lakes where he put the 3/4 and compare it where he didn't, you don't see the washouts. The same thing at 10. So at 5 around the greens that we're redoing at lakes, we're using 1/2 inch and riprap down the way in anticipation. But if you also go to Carolyn after this rain, you're going to see the same washouts. The difference is they have a power of labor that's focused solely on going out and taking care of that. So it's across the desert issue, and DG is DG.
Well, my concern was twofold. One, will that adversity, all that washing down, that's going to have some effect on our course, but long term. And what's the right answer?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Yeah.
And we don't get relief from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
No.
don't get relief from them.
Yeah.
Put big rocks in there, so we call them river rocks.
Yeah.
Work on Rod Hill on that.
Yeah, there you go. So that's a long-term fix that we're starting to address. He's doing some repairs right now, but we're going to start bringing in a lot of 1/2 inch rock and even some riprap to make creeks in certain areas and try to fix that. And it's just going to be an ongoing thing, but we're going to do it in-house. We're not contracting anybody to do it. We're going to do it in-house ourselves. So.
Keep in mind the grant is assisting us financially for the lake stuff that we're looking at doing.
Including areas like that.
Good. Well, thanks for the time and trouble.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming.
But I want to circle back, the old trainer and me, we had objectives. So I want to hear from the board members that are here, are we in agreement the mower heights are accurately set?
Yeah, that was kind of
Well,
the
we just
question.
did an experiment, so the lakes is gonna stay the same, this one's
No,
gonna go
I'm
up.
so
No,
accurately set.
Yeah, there's no.
There's a test, I'm just talking about accurately set.
No, I believe when,
Yes.
when that
Yes.
man
All right.
right there says they're at 9/16, I have no doubt about it because he has a
Accurate
calibrated
Accurate
device
for what
checking.
I've said.
That's right.
So the bench setting is accurate here. The actual mode of cut will be different than the bench setting.
And that's where the prism comes in.
That's where the prism comes in.
All right, the mowing heights are set to ensure turf health.
Good with that, yeah.
Mowing heights are determined depending on conditions like temperature, moisture, where we are in summer or winter transition process.
Yes.
And our primary grass is common Bermuda grass, and it's managed as such.
Correct.
Some of the adjustments we agreed to is that vistas we're gonna pull to 11/16. Lakes to leave it at 9/16. And the rolling greens are optional. If we play around with them, they may or may not come about.
Yeah,
Double
I
mowing
think that's a
was-
decision.
That's up to you.
A decision by the
I'll shoot you an
superintendent.
email on the dates we'll do it, dates.
As is double mowing.
I trust you.
Double mowing center.
Yeah, double
Yeah,
mowing.
you did double mowing.
Double
Alright.
mowing.
So the learning objectives were met?
This
Yes.
is a valuable hour and a half, for sure.
Good.